right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Yesterday we had a game we were playing. We were asking to determine what the American English word is compared to the British English word on certain things. One that comes to mind is the trunk of a car was called the boot of a car, and that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And there are a couple of funny ones as well in the list. One of the things that every year we talk about are some new words that have been added to the English language, sometimes with resistance. Sometimes people refuse to use some new words because maybe they started out as, I don't know, like maybe urban slang or something of the sort, but eventually words make their way into our language. And I think the word okay was one of those words, believe it or not, that was once not thought of as a real word, the word okay. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
I wonder why ain't has never been actually considered a word. It just never cut them out. It's like Pluto being a planet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Steve Kleinedler is on the phone. He is the executive editor of the American Heritage Dictionary. He's the executive director of the reference group at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Am I saying that right? He's a linguist. I think he's been with us before. We're talking about the addition of over 500 new words and senses to the 5th edition of the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. I think you've been with us before.
Yes, he has.
I'm certain I have, yes.
So where are you? Are you up north somewhere?
The office is located in Boston. I happen to be in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for being on the air with us this morning. What does it mean by senses? New words and senses. What does that mean?
Well, a new word is a word that is completely new. A new sense is a additional meaning to a already existing word. So, for example, 20, 30 years ago when people started using cut and paste and window and browser and mouse and all those different ways, they weren't new words, but they were new senses of existing words.
People who speak foreign languages and they learn English, they say we don't have enough words to mean love. Have you ever heard this before, that we use love to mean I love the temperature, I love my lover, I love my son, I love my mother, I love my dog, I love to go walking. They say, some people who speak other languages say we need more words that mean love like they have in their languages. Do you think that's accurate?
Different languages split things in different ways. Greek, for example, I think is the classic example. There were 3 different words for love. There's the agape, the eros, and the philios. That refer to the 3 different types of love that you mean about. In English or any language that uses one word where other languages use 2 or more, then you just rely on context cues and other things to clue you in as to what's in that. It's similarly in Russian. Dark blue and light blue are 2 different words that are completely unrelated to each other.
Oh, really?
Whereas, we lump blue covers the whole range of blue from light to dark. So, languages split words up differently. It's a fact of language.
That is interesting.
When you add words to your dictionary, do people recommend the words, or are they words that are all of a sudden people are just using them in everyday language?
It's a little bit of both. In terms of people recommending them, it would be our consultants who are recommending specific terminology. So, for example, a few years ago, we spent 3 years overhauling all the physics definitions with 3 different physics consultants. There's a lot of different kinds of physics. And in the process of their work and reporting and analysis, they suggested we add various terminology to help define other words more accurately, and because of new discoveries in physics. So in that regard, we take our consultant's word at it and then research it and add those. In other cases, the editorial staff, it's us keeping track of words that that are being used in the media and in other news sources, and seeing how widespread they get. And our website, ahdictionary.com, in addition to being a lookup site, there's a place where readers can suggest words, and those suggestions go into a large document that we review periodically to see if there is terminology that we should be covering.
When I moved originally from New York, and I play guitar up in New York, but down here they call it a guitar. Is that an accent thing, or I notice you have some new pronunciations in the new dictionary as well?
In that case, it's not so much an accent as it is a variant regional pronunciation. That may seem like a small, a fine point, but like an accent would be why people in one part of the country might say stock, and in near the Great Lakes they might say stack. That difference.
Oh my goodness.
Quality,
that's hard to. That's almost hard to differentiate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That distinction in vowel quality would be indicative of an accent, whereas there are some actual regionalisms like critter for creature, the one you mentioned, holler for hollow, that kind of thing. That's more of a regional difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have slang terms like do the dirty. Are those kind of terms
do the dirty
in the dictionary too? I can't think of anything else.
It depends on what you've got there is an idiom. Do the dirty, kick the bucket, that kind of thing.
I'd rather do the dirty.
Some of the more slangier ones we don't enter, but not that there's anything wrong with the slang. It's just we're not known for being a slang dictionary, and we don't have the resources to accurately track that. And there are plenty of reference works that do include, up to the moment, phraseology and that sort of thing. Our focus is more on revision and analysis and research of what's there, and we do add new terminology. We're less likely to add a slang phrase, which is an idiom, which consists of 2 or 3 or 4 words. But it depends on it depends on how widespread it becomes.
Some of the words that are added are what I wanted to ask you about next, because I always find it fun when you tell us some new words. But I did have a cheat sheet that was sent to me, and and I looked at it and tried to figure out what the meaning might be, and I was totally wrong on the word listicle. I had I thought it had something to do with, I thought it was a list/testicle thing, but it was list/article thing, isn't it?
Oh,
I had the wrong.
You're the second person who's brought that up to me. No, listicles are, if any of your listenership reads a lot of information off the internet or Facebook or what have you, they're going to come across a lot of listicles. Certainly websites like BuzzFeed are almost entirely in list format. This being news or an article, essay written in the form of a numbered list, and it leads into clickbait. Those things are, 10 things that this Hollywood star did on the Sunset Boulevard. You won't believe number 9. I was shocked by number 5. So these listicles then are can be used further to draw eyeballs to a site through clickbait.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for them. I go to them all the time, especially when you're doing a radio show. You look for them as talking points, so kind of makes it easy, actually. So, any words that you wanted to make sure we knew about today? There's a couple on my list, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, we can go through your list. I think there's a lot of a variety of prints that I can make, and it depends on the words that we're talking about. I will bring up, I think, because it's a good example of how new terminology enters the language, and the area of food often is a big source of words coming into the language. 100 years ago, a lot of words that were formerly Italian entered the language. About 50, 60 years ago, with the rise of French cuisine and Julia Child and all of that sort of thing, a lot of French food terminology entered English. And so, too, in the past decade or two, as American tastes become more global in terms of cuisine, a lot of foreign food dishes slowly get incorporated in the English language. Bibimbap is an example of that. That's a Korean rice dish with a lot of vegetables, raw egg, and other ingredients, chili paste, that they put into a very hot bowl, a hot stone bowl that's so hot that it actually
how do you pronounce it?
Some of the food.
Bibimbap. Bibimbap. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a something you might hear in a hip hop song. Bibimbap. Yeah. Speaking of restaurants, there was a lady on from a Japanese restaurant, and she was talking about Shibori. I had to look it up to remind myself. Shibori.
Yes.
I don't know if that's in the English language yet, but it's a wet, like when they give you, instead of a dry napkin, they give you like a damp, wet, warm
hot towel
cloth at your dinner. It's called an Shibori. I said, that's a great idea.
And something that you just referred to is a good example of determining whether a word is still foreign or if it's been anglicized. With the words that are still considered foreign and not English, when you refer to them, you often have to explain what they mean. So when we research these, when we look at recipes, or we're reading newspapers that discuss this type of thing, if they use a word and then immediately have to describe what it is, it's less incorporated into English. But like bibimbap here, when people start referring to it or using it in news articles and don't define immediately what it is, there's this assumption that it's been brought into the language. So it's the more often it's used without an explanation, the more likely we are to put it in. And with this word, for example, it's something I'm familiar with because I lived near a Korean neighborhood back in the 80s when I lived in Chicago, and I ate it all the time. However, it was still it was very much restricted pretty much to Korean restaurants.
Oh, is that right? Is that right? Do you know
now it's more widespread.
There's one word in the news lately that I thought, I don't even know where it comes from. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and I had to look it up because it's in the news. Caliphate. It's part of the
ISIS.
The ISIS thing. And I don't even still know what a caliphate is, or if I'm even pronouncing it right.
Yeah.
A caliphate or caliphate, they're both, that's a very old word. It refers to, it's the jurisdiction, it's the area that a caliph controls, and caliph itself is a very old word. It goes back to Middle English, and it came into English from Old French, and it's originally from Arabic. But it's a very old word, and it's a leader of an Islamic polity. So it's been around for quite a while. Hasn't been used. Caliphs were part of the Ottoman Empire, which was disbanded in 1924. So you heard of it less and less, but it still exists. But it's the Islamic leader of a organized Islamic society, like a nation or a nation state or this sort of thing. So it was a well-known word for a while, and then it went away for a while, and now it's back.
And we have to look it up when we hear about it. Yeah. All right, we'll take a little break. Steve Kleinedler is on the phone. The topic is the addition of over 500 new words and senses / meanings to the 5th edition of the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, a cooler day than recent days with more clouds and sun. There can be a shower along the coast, the high 72 to 76. Mostly cloudy tonight with a couple of showers, lows in the upper 50s inland, upper 60s along the coast. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and breezy with a couple of showers around, high 72 to 76. Saturday, clouds, some sun and windy with a shower, high 75 to 79. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Robin, let's try a little plant trivia. Name this nursery. It's a not-for-profit, and it teaches growing and caring for plants to their students.
Oh, that's easy. Kenny's Place.
Or how about this one? It's a nursery conveniently located between Ocala and Bellevue.
Again, it's Kenny's Place.
Or how about this one? A nursery with a wide variety of just what you need or want at the most reasonable prices.
Kenny's Place, of course.
Kenny's Place at 7677 Southeast 41st Court. Give them a call at 867-1213. It's a caring place for people and plants. It's Kenny's Place.
What are the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking? Will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. the English language is a fascinating topic. It's a very fun topic for me. I don't know why. I guess I'm the guy who likes the crossword puzzles and the word scrambles. I've always been that guy. In fact, that's the one thing I miss about using a real newspaper. I look at so much news online, and there's no real crossword puzzles online. And I don't know how you would do them if there were.
Yeah.
Steve Kleinedler is on the phone with us. He's the executive editor of the American Heritage Dictionary. We'll talk about new words. So there was one thing in the notes, Steve, that I wanted to bring up to you. If I get a new job, my new boss or something will say, "Well, get yourself oriented, and I'll be right back," or something like that. And now people are saying orientated. Get yourself orientated. Is that right? I mean, what's the story there?
It's not wrong, and it's certainly more common in British English than it is American English, but it's kind of like the use of commentate for what commentators do.
Right.
They take the word orientation and they turn it into a verb by going orientate without realizing that the verb orient already exists. It's one of those words that annoy people. You know those words, people's pet peeves. And a lot of language critics have been talking about it recently, so we put it forth to our usage panel to see what they thought about it. Our usage panel is a group of about 180 writers and journalists, a couple crossword puzzle constructors, in fact, people who won Pulitzers in literature and MacArthur Fellows and that kind of thing. And in last year's survey, 80% of them did not like the use of orientate, where you could use orient. It's just one of those things that sets people off.
It's so funny. Yeah, you're right.
If a word exists,
absolutely.
If you use it, you're going to want to know that you're probably irritating a bunch of people.
Just to piggyback on that one, if you don't mind, it's a totally different meaning, but the word Oriental. I made this mistake, and this is maybe more of a cultural thing, but you don't want to say something that is going to be politically incorrect to somebody. So we had a guest, and I can't remember if he was from Asia or I'm sorry, from Japan or China. I can't remember where he was from. But I asked him, do I refer to you as Oriental or Asian? He said, "Oh, I'm Asian. Oriental is a rug."
Yeah.
And so I always thought, wow, as a kid, you would say, "Oh, that's a beautiful Oriental woman over there." I mean, it was never meant to be a slur.
Yeah, you wouldn't really say that now. Language changes over time, and especially, words that are used to describe ethnic groups or other social groups, they change over time. What was considered polite or proper language even 40, 50 years ago, you probably wouldn't say now. And to that extent, we have a helpful usage note, at the word Oriental. If you go to ahdictionary.com, there's a usage note, which I'll read since it's relevant here. It says, "Oriental is now considered outdated and often offensive in American English when referring to a person of Asian birth or descent." Yes. While this term is rarely intended as an outright slur, it may even be thought polite by some speakers. It is so associated with stereotypical images of Asians as portrayed in the West during an earlier era that its use in ethnic context should routinely be avoided.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you have that in there, because in a way that would help us to better understand where we stand in today's world. But if I picked up a dictionary from 20 years ago, that wouldn't be in there, right?
That would go from 20 years ago, maybe. That's about the time. Definitely 40 years ago, not. But this has been a shift. I think this usage note was revised to this this stronger wording at least 10 years ago, if not more. But yeah, that's a really good example of how words change over time, and so.
Well, you must have a lot of experts on your editorial staff to make sure all of the definitions are correct, because somebody that's good with math terms might not be good with geologic terms.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. And with that, we have, when the last edition came out a few years ago, we had dozens of different consultants in a variety of areas working with the editors to ensure that, we had a math consultant, we had 3 different physics consultants, a chemistry consultant, and so on and so forth. So you're exactly right. If the editors are pretty well versed in a lot of areas and can, of course, do research, but there's nothing like having someone who's an actual student or scholar in an area to be able to give you advice as to what to say, especially in some of the sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people use the word algorithm all the time,
Yes.
and I never know if it's being used in the right way.
Yeah.
We went through a certain algorithm, and I'm thinking, I'll just take it in the context and figure I know what they mean. I don't know if I don't even understand it. So,
since English is like the predominant language across the world. When I took French class, you would get this dictionary that said French to English, English to French. Do you do that with your dictionaries for specific languages?
We have a few bilingual dictionaries, mostly ones that have been obtained from other publishing companies, because our staff isn't trained in bilingual lexicography. But we do have French and Spanish and German and Italian and Hebrew and a handful of other languages, but it's not our forte. But we do, and we license the works of, for example, LaRousse and a couple other foreign language publishers that are known for their bilingual dictionaries.
Do you know a word that I think brought to this community? I'm crediting Robin and I for this one. Is the word busk. Now, we didn't make up the word, but Robin and I play music, and to help raise money for the Literacy Council, we decided we were going to busk, which you play music on the sidewalk for tips.
Yeah.
And it was a new word as far everybody was. I never heard of that word before. Did you make it up? And I said, no, it's in the. I've read it somewhere. I think it was an old, like something in England or something. It just seemed like a cool word.
It is. A busker is a person who does this. It is a very old word, and it. Let's see. It's related to the Spanish word buscar, in fact, to seek, or the French busquer, to prowl. So it referred to a person who would go from place to place performing, and so it sounds new, but actually it's more of an old-timey word that's been brought back.
We had learned a new word this year, at least I did, called cosplay, because of all those Comic-Con and Dragon Con events.
Me too, yeah.
Is that word in there?
Oh, that was last year.
That was on our list last year.
Oh, last year. Okay. See, I'm a year behind.
Yeah, I'm
already.
always behind too. All right. So let's see. On my list here, we have the word zarf. What is a zarf?
This is a good example of an existing word that now has a new sense. In the Middle East, hot beverages when they're served ceremonially, will have these ornate metal holders, and from that, it has been used to refer to the cardboard containers that you're served hot coffee and the like in when you go to a coffee shop to go.
Starbucks
so the little
has
cardboard sleeve, exactly.
Yeah, Starbucks
the little
has
cardboard
that cardboard
sleeve is a zarf.
Do you know, on Thanksgiving I was with my son, and I have the first fob I've ever had, the key fob, and I called it a fob, and he said, "What are you calling that?" and so he's much younger than me, of course, 29, and he had never heard the word fob before.
Oh my!
Is there a history to that word? Where does that come from?
You one-upped him.
Is there a history to the word fob?
Yeah. Whoop, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. Yeah.
I was afraid I hit the mute button accidentally. It's been around for quite a while. It's not a new word at any rate.
I told him it meant finger on button.
Yeah.
Are you looking it up? Steve's looking it up, I think.
No, I was just looking at it. It's not a new word.
Okay.
It's been around for quite a while. I was looking. It has an origin in German if you go back far enough. So
we're out of time. But Steve, I always love chatting this conversation with you. Do we go buy a book? Do we go get this as an e thing nowadays? What's the best way to buy the dictionary now?
You can do this both ways. You can buy the book at a brick and mortar store or on an online store at ahdictionary.com.
Okay.
Website. The American Heritage Dictionary, the English language, you can buy in a bookstore or an online bookstore, and there's an app as well if you go to the iTunes or Android store.
Oh, okay. That's kind of my favorite. ahdictionary.com is the website. Steve, thank you so much. Have a great holiday season.
Thank you. You too.
All right. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm